You're not welcome here, Dad. This room is for her family, not you. Those were the exact words my son said the day my grandson was born. My name is Bruce Henry, and 3 days later, that same son was on the phone, sobbing, begging me to save his family from destruction. You see, while her family celebrated in that luxurious delivery room, I was being kicked out like trash. My son, Michael, could only watch as security escorted his father away. But what he didn't know, I was paying for everything he was enjoying. 340,000 a year, 12 years, $4 million in invisible support, that private room, my money. The specialists, my money. The very medical care that saved both mother and child, all mine. And with one phone call, I was about to turn his celebration into an $847,000 nightmare he would never escape. I didn't scream or threaten. I simply walked to my car, dialed a number, and quietly destroyed his perfect life. If you've ever been treated like nothing by the people you sacrificed everything for, hit subscribe and tell me your story in the comments. This is about the moment my ungrateful son discovered that the man he threw away was the only thing protecting him from financial ruin. Let me start from the beginning, so you understand how deep this betrayal really went. For 12 years, I've been the invisible foundation of my son's life. Every month, $28,400 automatically transfers from my account to cover his family's medical insurance. Blue Cross Platinum, the kind of coverage that turns a medical emergency into a minor inconvenience instead of bankruptcy. Michael thinks his marketing job pays for it. His salary is $95,000 a year. After taxes, he takes home maybe $65,000. That insurance alone costs more than his entire salary. But he's never questioned it, never wondered how the math worked, never asked why his premium never increased despite Sarah's high-risk pregnancy complications 2 years ago, never noticed that his coverage included experimental treatments and private specialists that most policies exclude. The insurance was just one piece. There was the mysterious $200,000 that appeared in his account when they were house hunting. Sarah's parents helped with the down payment, he told everyone. But Sarah's parents had quietly asked me to handle it because their own finances were tied up in Dr. Whitman's practice expansion. There was Emma's private preschool, $24,000 a year at Little Angels Academy. Michael thought Sarah's mother was covering it through some family trust. The truth? I'd been writing those tuition checks for 3 years, watching my granddaughter learn Spanish and violin, while my son assumed someone else cared enough to invest in her future. There were the smaller things, too. The emergency fund that magically appeared when Michael's first startup failed. The car repairs that somehow got covered by extended warranty that didn't actually exist. The vacation to Disney World that Sarah's family supposedly paid for as a Christmas gift. All of it was me. All of it was invisible. All of it was taken for granted. I drive a 2015 Honda Civic, forest green, cloth seats, 180,000 miles. I buy my clothes at Kohl's when they're marked down to $12. My jeans come from Walmart. I clip coupons, not because I need to, but because it's a habit from when money was scarce 40 years ago. To Michael and his wife Sarah, this makes me manageable. The kind of father who needs gentle guidance about appropriate behavior in their elevated social circles. Last Christmas, Sarah's mother actually handed me a coupon book for groceries. These might help stretch your budget, Bruce. And I thanked her and put them in my pocket, right next to the bank statement showing $47 million in available assets. The thing is, I could have corrected these assumptions any time. I could have driven up in my other car, the 2021 Mercedes S-Class that sits in a garage across town. I could have worn the custom suits hanging in my closet. I could have mentioned the 7-figure charitable donations I make annually. But I learned something 40 years ago when I built Meridian Industries from nothing. People show you who they really are when they think you can't affect their lives. So I stayed quiet and watched. What I saw was my son growing comfortable with treating me like a charity case. A daughter-in-law who meant well but managed me like I was someone's confused uncle who needed supervision at family gatherings. Michael would introduce me to his professional contacts as, "My dad, he's retired." Never "my dad who built and sold a manufacturing company." Never "my dad who employs half the contractors in this town through his investments." Just retired, like I was waiting around to die. Sarah would explain things to me slowly. Medical terminology, investment concepts, technology. Like my 67-year of business experience and my Harvard MBA somehow counted for less than her medical residency. But here's what really hurt. In 12 years of taking my money, they never once asked where it came from. Never wondered how a retired maintenance worker could afford to help with a $200,000 house down payment. Never questioned the mysterious benefactor covering Emma's expensive education. They just took it, like it was their birthright. The pattern became clear over years of family dinners and holiday celebrations. Bruce shows up in his discount clothes, driving his old car, and everyone assumes he's the poor relation who needs managing and gentle correction. Last month, Sarah actually suggested I might want him to look into Medicare supplement plans because medical costs can be overwhelming for people on fixed incomes. I was sitting in their $850,000 house, the house I'd made possible, listening to advice about medical costs from someone whose medical bills I'd been covering for over a decade. "That's thoughtful of you to worry about me," I told her. "Well, we're family," she said sweetly. Family, until Sunday, March 12th, when I learned what that word really meant to them. Sarah went into labor at 1:30 p.m. that Sunday. Complications developed quickly. Placental abruption, fetal distress. Emergency C-section became necessary within the hour. High-risk situation that could have ended very differently without immediate access to top-tier medical care. I got Michael's call at 2 o'clock. "Dad, Sarah's having the baby. We're at St. Mary's. There are complications." I dropped everything. Dropped the financial reports I'd been reviewing for my quarterly investment meeting. Canceled my 3 p.m. call with my attorney about the new charitable foundation I was establishing. Drove straight to the hospital, my heart pounding with worry for both Sarah and the baby. When I walked into the maternity ward, I saw Sarah's family clustered around the nurses' station like they owned the place, and in many ways, they did. Her father, Dr. Richard Whitman, was speaking to the medical team using terminology that made everything sound official and important. He knew these doctors. He'd trained some of them. He was part of their world. Her mother, Patricia, was directing traffic with the confidence of someone who'd served on the hospital board for 8 years. She knew which forms needed signing, which departments to call, how to ensure Sarah got the absolute best care available. Her brother David was on his phone with someone, making arrangements for additional specialists. Her sister Jennifer was coordinating with the neonatal team about NICU readiness. They moved like a family that understood medical emergencies, like a family that knew how to handle crisis situations with money and connections and institutional knowledge. Michael saw me approaching and his expression changed. Not relief that his father had come to support him during the most terrifying moment of his life. Not gratitude that family was arriving to help shoulder the burden. Something else entirely. Something that looked like inconvenience. "Dad," he said, pulling me aside into an empty corridor. "We need to talk. How is she? How's the baby?" "They're stable. Surgery went well. But Dad, this situation is complicated." "Complicated how?" "Sarah's dad knows all the doctors here. He's head of cardiology. Her mom has connections with the administration. They can make sure everything goes perfectly." I looked around the hallway, at the expensive art on the walls, funded by donations like the ones I'd been making anonymously for 15 years. At the state-of-the-art equipment visible through doorways, equipment my money had helped purchase. "And I can't?" "Dad, that's not what I'm saying." But his eyes said something different. His eyes said exactly that. "Michael, what are you trying to tell me?" He shifted uncomfortably, glancing back toward Sarah's family conference. "They've arranged for Sarah to get the absolute best possible care. Private room in the VIP wing, specialist consultations, around-the-clock monitoring. But these arrangements, they require coordination. Coordination. With the medical team, with the hospital administration, people who understand how these systems work. I watched my son struggle to find words for what he really meant. That his father, in his Kohl's shirt and Walmart jeans, driving his 10-year-old Honda, didn't belong in the same space as Dr. Whitman's polished medical credentials and Patricia's board connections. And you think I don't understand how systems work? Dad, please don't make this harder than it has to be. I'm standing here waiting to meet my grandson. How is that making anything hard? Michael glanced back at Dr. Whitman, who was now conferring with 2 nurses and a resident. All very official, all very important looking, all very expensive. The thing is, Michael continued, they've got everything handled. Sarah's getting care that most people could never afford. The private room alone costs $12,200 a night. The specialists are billing $500 per consultation. The NICU monitoring is $8,000 per day. That's expensive. It is. But her family, they can handle it. They understand what quality medical care costs. What quality medical care costs? Standing there listening to my son explain hospital economics to me, I realized something crucial. This wasn't about medical care at all. This wasn't about who knew the right doctors or understood the right procedures. This was about worthiness. This was about social acceptability. This was about who belonged in the private wing of St. Mary's Hospital and who should wait downstairs with the regular families. Michael had looked at his father and decided I wasn't worthy to be present for the most important moment of our family's future. He decided that Dr. Whitman's medical credentials and Patricia's former board position made them more qualified to welcome my grandson into the world. But here's what Michael didn't know. Here's what none of them knew. Every month for 12 years, I'd been making decisions about what quality medical care costs. Every month, I'd been ensuring that Michael's family had access to the exact type of care Sarah was receiving right now. Every month, I'd been paying for their membership in the world they thought I didn't belong to. So what exactly are you asking me to do, Michael? Maybe you could wait downstairs in the main lobby? I'll call you as soon as I can bring him down to meet you. Wait downstairs, while her family got front row seats to my grandson's birth, while the people my money was enabling celebrated the life my support had helped create. Michael, let me ask you something. Do you know how much your medical insurance costs? I don't know. Maybe $500 a month? $500 a month. Something like that. Why? Standing there in that corridor, I made a decision that would change everything. At 3:47 a.m. the next morning, I made the call that would change everything. The call went to James Morrison, my trust officer at Wells Fargo. 24-hour service for premium clients with assets over $50 million. Mr. Henry, is everything all right? I need to make some account adjustments, James. Of course. What can I do for you? The automatic insurance payment for Michael Henry's family. I want it canceled immediately. Sir, that's a substantial monthly payment, $28,400. Are you certain about this decision? I'm certain. This will terminate their coverage immediately. They'll be notified within 12 hours. Given the timing with the new baby, I understand the timing perfectly. Very well, sir. I'll process the cancellation now. The payment scheduled for tomorrow will be reversed. Good. Anything else I can help you with? Not yet. But James, keep your phone on. I may have more adjustments to make. I hung up and sat in my kitchen, looking at 12 years of financial records spread across the table. Bank transfers, insurance payments, trust fund contributions, hospital donations, $8.7 million in total support over the years, $8.7 million in invisible help that had made Michael's comfortable life possible. At 7:18 a.m., my phone rang, earlier than I'd expected. Dad? Michael's voice was strained, panicked. We have a serious problem. What kind of problem? The insurance company called at 6 a.m. They're saying our coverage was canceled last night. But that's impossible. I never canceled anything. I never even spoke to them. What exactly did they tell you? Something about the primary account holder terminating the automatic payment. But that doesn't make sense. Sarah and I are the account holders. We've been paying this policy for years. I poured coffee and let him work through the logic that didn't add up. Dad, are you there? I'm here. This has to be some kind of mistake, some computer error. Can you help me figure this out? What do you need me to figure out? Well, you helped us with the paperwork when we first got the policy, remember? Back when Sarah was pregnant with Emma. Maybe there's some connection through your old job or something. My old job. The company I'd built from a single government contract into a $180 million manufacturing empire before selling it to focus on philanthropy and investments. Michael, what exactly do you think my old job was? You worked in maintenance at some company, right? Maybe Meridian Industries? Worked in maintenance at the company I'd founded and owned. Something like that, I said carefully. Tell me about this insurance problem. They want to speak to the primary account holder, but they won't tell me who that is because of privacy laws. And Dad, his voice cracked with real fear. The hospital bill from yesterday is $847,000. That's a significant amount. It's devastating. The emergency C-section, the private room, the specialist consultations, the NICU monitoring, everything we thought was covered. Without insurance, we're completely ruined. What does Dr. Whitman say? He's trying to help, but even he can't just make an $847,000 bill disappear. His connections only go so far. The hospital still needs to get paid. I imagine they do. Sarah's still recovering, and now we're getting calls from the billing department every hour. They want immediate payment arrangements. What kind of arrangements? Payment in full within 30 days, or a massive down payment to establish a payment plan. Dad, we don't have $847,000. We don't have $84,000. We barely have $8,000 in our checking account. I thought about that number. $8,000. Less than what I spent on my monthly wine allocation. Less than what I donated to various charities in a typical week. Dad, I'm really scared here. If we can't resolve this insurance thing, what happens if you can't resolve it? We lose everything. The house, Emma's school, everything. We'd have to declare bankruptcy. Sarah's talking about whether this will affect her medical license. Bankruptcy. My son was facing bankruptcy because he'd excluded me from his son's birth. Michael, I need to ask you something about yesterday. Dad, this isn't really the time for... When you told me to wait downstairs, what did you think that meant? Silence. I mean, what was the message you were sending about my place in this family? I wasn't sending a message. I was just managing a complicated situation. Managing me. Managing the logistics. Sarah's family knows how these things work. They have connections, relationships, and I don't? Dad, you know I didn't mean it that way. How did you mean it? I meant that they understand the medical world. They speak the language. They can make sure Sarah gets the absolute best care. The best care that money can buy. Exactly. Michael, let me ask you something. Who do you think has been paying for the insurance that covers this best care? We have, through my job. Your job pays you $95,000 a year. After taxes, you take home about $65,000. Your insurance costs $340,800 annually. How exactly does that math work? I heard him set the phone down. Muffled conversation in the background. Sarah's voice, weak but alarmed. Her parents asking urgent questions. Dad, are you saying that you've been... I'm saying that yesterday you decided who was family and who wasn't. Today you get to see what that decision costs. Oh my God. Dad, how long have you been paying our insurance? 12 years, $28,400 every month. Total paid $4,492,800. The silence was absolute. But how? Where do you get that kind of money? Where do you think I get it, Michael? I don't know. I thought you were living on Social Security and a small pension. A pension that pays nearly $500,000 a year for one family's medical insurance? I never thought about it. No, you never did. For 12 years, you never once wondered how your comfortable life was possible. You just assumed it was automatic. Dad, I'm so sorry. We had no idea. And you weren't supposed to have any idea. That was the point. But why would you cancel it now, right when we need it most? Because yesterday you taught me something important about my place in this family. What did I teach you? That I don't have one. That's not true, Dad. Isn't it? Yesterday, when your son was born, where was I? Dad, that was a misunderstanding. The situation was stressful. Michael, it wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a choice. You looked at your father and you looked at Sarah's family and you decided who mattered more. That's not how it happened. How did it happen? Sarah's parents were taking charge. They know the system. I thought it would be easier to exclude me, easier to let them handle everything. With my money. He couldn't respond to that. Michael, I want you to think about something. For 12 years, what kind of father have I been to you? A good father, a supportive father. And how have I been supportive? You've always been there when we needed help. What kind of help? Financial help, advice, support during difficult times. How much financial help, Michael? I I don't know. I never kept track. I did. $8.7 million over 12 years. I heard him gasp. That includes the insurance, the house down payment, Emma's schooling, the emergency funds when your startup failed, the car repairs, the vacations you thought Sarah's parents paid for, all of it. Dad, I had no idea it was that much. You had no idea it was me at all. Why didn't you tell us? Because I wanted to see what kind of people you'd become, what kind of character you'd develop, how you'd treat the person who was making your life possible. And yesterday I got my answer. The silence stretched between us. Michael, let me ask you something else. Do you know who the guardian angel is? The what? Saint. Mary's hospital has an anonymous benefactor they call the guardian angel, someone who's donated millions of dollars over the years to fund equipment, renovate wings, establish programs. I've never heard of that. The cardiac wing where your father-in-law works, guardian angel funding. The maternity equipment that helped save Sarah and Thomas yesterday, guardian angel funding. The NICU that monitored your son overnight, guardian angel funding. Why are you telling me this? Just curious if you might want to know who's been funding the hospital where your family receives the best medical care money can buy. Dad, what are you getting at? I'm getting at the fact that yesterday you excluded the wrong person from your son's birth. What do you mean? I think you'll understand soon enough. Before he could respond, I hung up and made another call, this one to Dr. Patricia Richardson, CEO of St. Mary's Hospital. Dr. Richardson, this is Bruce Henry. Mr. Henry! This is unexpected. How can I help you? I'd like to schedule a meeting with you this afternoon, and I'd like to bring Michael Henry and Dr. Richard Whitman with me. Of course. May I ask what this is regarding? It's about the guardian angel donations. I think it's time to discuss some changes to that arrangement. Changes, Mr. Henry? I hope there's not a problem with our stewardship of your generosity. There's not a problem with your stewardship, Dr. Richardson. There's a problem with my family's understanding of where their medical care comes from. I see. What time would work for you? 2 p.m., conference room 3A. And Dr. Richardson? Yes? When Dr. Whitman arrives, he's going to assume he's the most important person in the room. I want you to show him exactly how wrong that assumption is. I understand. After hanging up, I called Michael back. Dad? Michael, I need you and Dr. Whitman to meet me at St. Mary's Hospital at 2 p.m. today. Why? Because you're going to learn something about the cost of excluding family from important moments. Dad, what are you planning? I'm not planning anything. I'm just going to let you meet someone who has some opinions about your insurance situation. Who? The person who makes the big decisions at that hospital. Dr. Whitman already knows all the hospital administrators. Does he now? I hung up again and sat back in my kitchen chair, looking at the financial records that told the story of 12 years of invisible love. In 6 hours, my son was going to learn exactly what that love had cost, and exactly what excluding me was going to cost him. At 1:45 p.m., I walked into the lobby of St. Mary's Hospital, the same lobby I'd walked through thousands of times over the past 15 years, usually to meet with administrators about donations or to review construction progress on projects my money was funding, but always quietly, always through intermediaries. always as the anonymous benefactor who preferred to remain in the background. Today was going to be different. Michael was already there, pacing near the information desk. Dr. Whitman stood beside him with the confident posture of a man who owned this space, who belonged here, who expected deference from hospital staff. Sarah was with them too, still weak from surgery, but insistent on being present. She was holding baby Thomas, who was sleeping peacefully in his carrier, unaware that his grandfather was about to change his family's entire world. "Dad," Michael said as I approached, "what's this about? The hospital administrator said you called this meeting?" "I did." Dr. Whitman extended his hand. "Bruce, I appreciate you trying to help with this insurance situation. As I told Michael, I'm confident we can resolve this through proper channels." "What proper channels are those?" "Well, I've spoken to the billing department, the insurance coordinators, and several administrators. Everyone agrees this has to be some kind of error. Policies don't just get canceled overnight without cause." "Don't they?" "Of course not. I've been practicing medicine for 30 years. I understand how these systems work." "I'm sure you do." Just then, Dr. Patricia Richardson appeared, walking toward us with the purposeful stride of someone accustomed to command. She was flanked by Nancy Chen, the hospital's financial director, and two other administrators I recognized from board meetings. Dr. Whitman's face brightened immediately. "Patricia, thank goodness. I was hoping you could help us sort out this insurance confusion with Michael's family." "Hello, Richard," Dr. Richardson said cordially, then turned to me with a much warmer expression. "Mr. Henry, thank you for coming." The change in her demeanor was subtle, but unmistakable. Dr. Whitman noticed it immediately. "You two know each other?" he asked. "Dr. Richardson and I have been corresponding for 15 years, I said. "Corresponding about what?" Dr. Richardson looked at me questioningly. I nodded. "Richard, Mr. Henry is our guardian angel donor." The words hit the group like a physical blow. "I'm sorry," Sarah whispered. "Bruce Henry is our largest individual benefactor. He's donated $4.2 million to this hospital over the past 15 years. The silence was absolute. Dr. Whitman's confident expression crumbled. Michael's face went pale. "The cardiac wing where you work, Richard? Mr. Henry funded the renovation. The maternity equipment that delivered your grandson safely, Sarah? Mr. Henry paid for it. The NICU that monitored baby Thomas overnight? Mr. Henry's donations made that level of care possible." Dr. Whitman sat down heavily in a nearby chair. "How much money?" Michael's voice was barely audible. $4.2 million, Dr. Babur," Richardson repeated. "The guardian angel donations have transformed this institution." I looked around at my family, at these people who had spent 12 years assuming I was someone who needed management and gentle guidance about appropriate behavior in their elevated social circles. "There's more," I said quietly. "More?" Patricia whispered. Nancy Chen stepped forward. "Mr. Henry, should I explain the insurance situation?" "Please do." "Michael, your family's medical insurance has been paid directly by Mr. Henry for 12 years, $28,400 per month. Total contributions, $4,492,800. Sarah started crying. Dr. Whitman put his head in his hands. "Yesterday," I said, looking directly at Dr. Whitman, "you told me that your family understands what quality medical care costs. Tell me, Dr. Whitman, what do you think Sarah's delivery yesterday cost?" "With the complications, the emergency surgery, the private room, probably $847,000. "And who do you think has been ensuring your daughter's family could afford that level of care for over a decade?" "You have," he said quietly. "Yes, I have. The man you decided was inappropriate for your family's medical emergency. The man you excluded from his grandson's birth because he didn't fit your social standards." Michael found his voice. "Dad, we never knew." "You never knew because you never asked. In 12 years of taking my money, you never once wondered where it came from." Dr. Richardson cleared her throat. "Mr. Henry, about your annual donation." "Yes, Dr. Richardson, I think it's time to reconsider that arrangement." "What do you mean?" "I mean that I've been supporting this hospital to ensure that families in crisis receive the best possible care. But yesterday I learned that my own family doesn't believe I deserve to be present when that care is being provided. Bruce, Dr. Whitman said desperately, surely we can work this out. Can we? Yesterday you thought you understood what quality medical care costs. Today you're learning what excluding family costs. Nancy Chen pulled out a tablet. Mr. Henry, about the current bill. Yes, the $847,000 balance. What are the standard payment options for uninsured patients? Typically, payment in full within 30 days or a structured payment plan. What would the payment plan be for $847,000? $4,700 per month for 15 years? Michael went white. Dad, please. Yesterday you made a choice about who belongs in this family. Today you live with the financial reality of that choice. Dr. Whitman stood up. Bruce, I apologize for yesterday. We made a mistake. We let stress and protocol override common courtesy. Common courtesy? We should have included you. We should have recognized your importance to the family. My importance based on what? Based on your role as Michael's father and Thomas's grandfather. I was Michael's father and Thomas's grandfather yesterday too. What's different today? He couldn't answer. What's different today, Dr. Whitman, is that you know excluding me costs $847,000. Yesterday you thought it was free. Sarah spoke through her tears. Dad, Bruce, what can we do to fix this? You can learn to pay your own bills. But we can't afford $4,700 a month, not with the mortgage and Emma's school and everything else. Then you'll need to make some choices. Sell the house. Find a different school. Live within your actual means instead of the means I was providing. Nancy Chen looked uncomfortable. Mr. Henry, given your relationship with the hospital, standard payment plan, Nancy. No special treatment. But, sir, standard payment plan. Dr. Richardson tried one more approach. Mr. Henry, perhaps we could arrange a meeting to discuss this privately. No, Dr. Richardson, this is exactly the right setting for this conversation. Yesterday, my family decided in a public setting that I wasn't appropriate for important moments. Today, they can experience in a public setting what that decision costs. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Dr. Richardson? That annual guardian angel donation? The board should know that's under review as well. I walked away, leaving my family to confront the financial reality of their choices. 3 hours later, my phone rang. It was Dr. Richardson. Mr. Henry, your family is still here. They're struggling with the payment arrangements. I imagine they are. Dr. Whitman has asked if he could speak with you directly. He says there are things he needs to discuss about yesterday. What kind of things? He seems to think there was a fundamental misunderstanding about your role in the family. Was there? He's asking for another chance to handle this appropriately. He says he realizes now that he misjudged the situation entirely. I looked at my watch. 5:30 p.m. My family had been sitting in that hospital for 3.5 hours, trying to figure out how to pay $847,000 they didn't have. Tell them I'll be there in 30 minutes. When I returned to the hospital, I found them in the same conference room where we'd met earlier, but the atmosphere had changed completely. Dr. Whitman stood when I entered, no longer carrying himself with the confidence he'd shown that morning. Michael looked like he'd been crying. Sarah was pale, still holding Thomas, but now she looked at me with something approaching awe. Bruce, Dr. Whitman began, I owe you an enormous apology. For what? For yesterday, for not understanding who you are, for not recognizing what you've done for this family. Who do you think I am, Dr. Whitman? You're clearly a man of substantial means, substantial generosity. Someone who's been taking care of this family in ways we never realized. What ways? The insurance payments, the hospital donations, probably much more that we don't even know about. I sat down across from them. Michael, have you told Dr. Whitman about the other support? Other support? Dr. Whitman looked confused. Michael's voice was hoarse. Dad's been paying for everything, Dr. Whitman. The house down payment we thought came from Sarah's family. That was Dad. Emma's preschool tuition we thought your wife was covering, that was Dad. The emergency money when my startup failed, that was Dad. How much money are we talking about? Total, I said. About $8.7 million over 12 years. Dr. Whitman's face went completely white. $8.7 million? Give or take. Bruce, I don't understand. If you have that kind of wealth, why do you live so modestly? What do you mean by modestly? The car, the clothes, the whole presentation? You mean why don't I look like your idea of a wealthy person? Well, but yes? Dr. Whitman, let me ask you something. If I had shown up yesterday driving a Mercedes and wearing a $3,000 suit, would you have excluded me from my grandson's birth? The question hung in the air. Probably not, he admitted. So you treat people differently based on their apparent wealth? It's not that simple, isn't it? Yesterday you looked at me and decided I wasn't appropriate for your family's medical emergency. Today you know I've been funding that emergency for 12 years. What changed? We understand the situation better now. You understand my net worth better now. Bruce, we made a mistake. A serious mistake. We let appearances and assumptions guide our decisions. What kind of assumptions? Dr. Whitman struggled for words. We thought you were someone who needed guidance rather than someone who was providing leadership. Financial leadership, yes. But not social leadership? I'm not sure I understand. Yesterday you decided that you and your family were qualified to make decisions about my grandson's birth. Today you know I've been funding the hospital where that birth took place. Do you think my judgment might be worth considering now? Sarah spoke up. Dad, Bruce, we're so sorry. We had no idea what you were doing for us. What was I doing for you, Sarah? You were making our life possible. Why was I doing that? Because you love us? I do love you, but yesterday, when I wanted to be present for one of the most important moments in our family's history, what happened? We excluded you. Why? Because we thought you wouldn't fit in. With who? With the medical professionals, with the hospital staff, with people who understand these situations. I stood up and walked to the window overlooking the hospital campus. Sarah, do you see that cardiac wing? Yes? But I funded the renovation that made it one of the most advanced cardiac facilities on the East Coast. Your father has been working in a building that exists because of my donations. Dr. Whitman looked stunned. Do you see the maternity ward where your son was born? Yes. The equipment that monitored your vital signs, the incubators in the NICU, the surgical instruments that saved your life during the emergency C-section, all paid for by my donations. Dad, Bruce, for 15 years I've been funding this hospital, not because I wanted recognition, because I believed in making sure families in crisis get the best possible care. I turned back to face them. Yesterday you decided I didn't deserve to be present when my own family needed that care. We were wrong, Dr. Whitman said firmly. Completely, utterly wrong. What were you wrong about? We were wrong to judge you by appearances, wrong to assume we understood your capabilities or your contributions, wrong to exclude you from one of the most important moments in your family's life. Anything else? We were wrong to take your support for granted without ever acknowledging it or thanking you for it. Michael finally spoke. Dad, what do we have to do to make this right? You can't make it right, Michael. There has to be something. Why does there have to be something? Because we're family. Because we love you. Because we want you to be part of Thomas's life. You wanted me to be part of his life yesterday too, until it became inconvenient. Dad, that was different. How was it different? We didn't understand. You didn't understand what? We didn't understand how important you are. Important because I have money. Important because you're our father and grandfather. I was your father and grandfather yesterday. Nancy Chen knocked on the conference room door. Excuse me, but I need to finalize these payment arrangements. Of course, I said. Standard payment plan. Mr. Henry, are you certain? Given your substantial relationship with this institution, I'm certain. They made a choice about family priorities yesterday. Today they live with the financial reality of that choice. Dr. Richardson appeared in the doorway. Mr. Henry, might I have a word? Of course. She pulled me aside. The board is very concerned about your comments regarding the guardian angel donations. I imagine they are. Is there anything we can do to address your concerns? You can treat my family like any other uninsured patients. But surely, given the circumstances are that yesterday my family taught me they don't value my presence when it matters. Today I'm teaching them what my absence costs. And the donations? We'll see. I returned to the conference room where my family was signing payment documents for $4,700 per month for 15 years. Watching my son's hands shake as he signed those papers, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not satisfaction, sadness, because this wasn't how I'd imagined meeting my grandson. The next morning, Michael called at 6 a.m. I could hear baby Thomas crying in the background. Dad, we need to talk. What about? About everything, about yesterday, about the money, about what happens now. What do you want to happen now? I want to fix this. I want to make it right between us. Michael, let me ask you something. If I restore your insurance and forgive the hospital bill, what guarantee do I have that you won't exclude me from the next important family event? You have my word. Your word. Yes, I swear to you, Dad, this will never happen again. Why should I believe you? Because I understand now. I understand what you've been doing for us, what you've sacrificed. Do you? What have I sacrificed? Money, millions of dollars. What else? I don't know what else. Michael, money wasn't the sacrifice. Recognition was the sacrifice. Credit was the sacrifice. The satisfaction of seeing gratitude for 12 years of support was the sacrifice. We're grateful now. Are you grateful, or are you desperate? Silence. Michael, yesterday you made a choice based on your actual values. You valued social acceptability over family loyalty. You valued appearances over substance. You valued Dr. Whitman's opinion over your father's feelings. I made a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. And now you have to live with the consequences of that decision. What consequences? Learning to support your family without my help. For how long? I don't know. Dad, this could destroy us financially. It could, or it could teach you things about responsibility and character that my money never could. But Thomas, Emma, they'll suffer. And will they? Or will they learn that family is about more than money? That love isn't about convenience? That respect is something you earn, not something you inherit? I could hear Sarah crying in the background. Dad, what if we can't make it? What if we lose the house, Emma's school, everything? Then you'll discover what you can actually afford. You'll learn to live within your real means instead of the artificial means I was providing. But we've gotten used to a certain lifestyle. Exactly the problem. What do you mean? Michael, for 12 years, I enabled a lifestyle you couldn't actually sustain. I removed every financial obstacle. I made every choice easy. And in doing that, I robbed you of the chance to develop real strength. We are strong. Are you? Yesterday, when faced with a difficult social situation, you threw your father under the bus to avoid any uncomfortable moments with your in-laws. He couldn't argue with that. Michael, do you know what I learned yesterday? What? That love without boundaries isn't love. It's enabling. And enabling doesn't help anyone become their best self. So you're punishing us. I'm not punishing you. I'm letting you experience the natural consequences of your choices. Same thing. No, it's not. Punishment would be taking revenge. This is education. Education? You're going to learn what it really costs to maintain the lifestyle you've been living. You're going to discover whether you can support your family without a safety net. You're going to find out what your actual capabilities are. And what if we fail? Then you'll adjust your expectations to match your capabilities. Dr. Whitman's voice came on the line. Sarah must have put him on speaker. Bruce, this is Richard. I think you're being unnecessarily harsh. Do you? Yesterday was a misunderstanding. People make mistakes under stress. Surely the punishment shouldn't be this severe. Dr. Whitman, yesterday you thought you understood medical economics. Let me ask you something. What do you pay for your family's health insurance? About $1,800 a month? $2,800 a month. And you thought that qualified you to make decisions about a family whose insurance costs $28,400 a month? We didn't know. You didn't care to know. You assumed that someone else's money was automatic. You assumed that your medical credentials made you qualified to manage other people's family relationships. Bruce, we can acknowledge our mistakes. Can you? Because even now, even knowing what my support has meant to this family, you're telling me I'm being too harsh. You're still trying to manage the situation. Sarah's voice, weak but determined. Dad, Bruce, what do you want from us? I want you to stop asking me to fix this. What? I want you to spend the next year learning to carry your own weight. I want you to discover what you're actually capable of when you can't depend on my money to solve your problems. A year? Maybe more, maybe less, depends on what you learn. What are we supposed to learn? That's up to you. But here's what I'm not going to teach you anymore. That disrespecting family has no consequences. That taking help for granted is acceptable. That love means never having to earn respect. Michael's voice was small. Dad, what about our relationship? What about Thomas? Our relationship will be whatever you make it. And Thomas is welcome in my life anytime you want to bring him around, but not because you need something from me, because you want me to be his grandfather. I do want that. Then we'll see how much you want it when wanting it is all you have. Dad, Michael, I'm going to hang up now. When you call me again, and you will call me again, I want it to be because you miss me, not because you need me to solve a problem. How will you know the difference? I'll know. I hung up and sat in my kitchen looking at the financial records that told the story of 12 years of invisible love. For the first time since Thomas was born, those records were just history. For the first time in 12 years, Michael was going to discover what his choices actually cost. And for the first time in 12 years, I was going to discover whether my son loved me or just loved what I could provide. The next few months would teach us both things we'd never had to learn before. 6 weeks later, the reality started setting in with devastating clarity. Michael called on a Thursday evening, and I could hear the exhaustion in his voice before he even spoke. Baby Thomas was crying in the background, that particular cry of an infant who's picking up on his parents' stress. Dad, we're losing the house. I'm sorry to hear that. We can't make the mortgage payment and the hospital payment and everything else. Not on our combined salaries. The mortgage alone is $6,800 a month. Add the hospital bill at $4,700, and we're already at $11,500 before we pay for food, utilities, Emma's daycare. What are your options? We could sell and find something smaller. Maybe rent for a while. Sarah's looking at apartments in different school districts. How does she feel about that? She's devastated. She's having panic attacks about money. She's back at work earlier than her doctor recommended because we desperately need her income. I could hear Sarah crying in the background, the sound of a woman who'd gone from feeling secure to feeling terrified in the span of 6 weeks. What else is happening? Everything's falling apart, Dad. We're fighting about money constantly. Yesterday we had a 20-minute argument about whether we could afford to buy Emma new shoes. 20 minutes, over $30 shoes. What do you fight about? Everything. Whether to buy name brand groceries or generic. Whether Emma can stay in any kind of preschool at all. Whether to ask Sarah's parents for money. Whether to declare bankruptcy. Are Sarah's parents helping? They offered to cover some of the hospital payments, but it's causing massive problems in their relationship with us. What kind of problems? Her dad made some comments about us living beyond our means, about how we should have understood our insurance situation better, about taking responsibility for our financial decisions. The irony was stunning. The man who had excluded me from my grandson's birth because I didn't fit his idea of financial sophistication was now lecturing my son about fiscal responsibility. How did that conversation go? Horrible. Sarah was crying. Her mom was trying to keep the peace. Dr. Whitman was getting more and more frustrated because we couldn't give him concrete answers about our long-term plan. What did you tell him? Nothing. What could I say? That for 12 years I'd been living on my father's money without knowing it? That I'd treated that same father like an embarrassment at his grandson's birth? You could have said that. I couldn't, Dad. It's too humiliating. Admitting that I'm a 32-year-old man who's never actually supported his own family. 2 months later, they sold the house. The beautiful $850,000 colonial in Westfield that had represented their arrival in the upper middle class. Gone. They moved to a 3-bedroom ranch in a different town, 40 minutes from Sarah's hospital. Their mortgage dropped to $2,400 a month, but Sarah's commute added 2 hours to her daily schedule and $300 monthly in gas costs. Emma had to leave Little Angels Academy, the private preschool where she'd been learning Spanish and violin. Public pre-K in their new district was adequate, but the adjustment was hard for a 4-year-old who couldn't understand why everything familiar was disappearing. I heard through mutual friends that the stress was taking its toll on everyone. Sarah's income helped, but they were still stretched thin with the hospital payments. The $4,700 monthly bill felt impossible when combined with their other obligations, even in the smaller house. I learned that there was growing tension with Sarah's parents about how much financial help to provide. Dr. Whitman had apparently made several pointed comments about enabling financial irresponsibility and the importance of natural consequences for poor decision-making. The same man who had insisted on managing my family's medical crisis was now concerned about enabling his own daughter's dependence. 4 months after Thomas's birth, Michael called with a different tone in his voice. Less desperation, more weariness. Dad, I need to tell you something. I'm listening. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about learning to carry my own weight. And I got a promotion. Marketing director to senior marketing director. It comes with a $25,000 raise. Congratulations. And Sarah picked up extra shifts at the hospital. She's making about $40,000 more this year than last year. That's significant. We're still struggling with the payments, but we're not drowning anymore. We can make our obligations and have a little left over. How does that feel? Scary, but also different. Different how? I know exactly how much everything costs now. Every grocery bill, every utility payment, every unexpected expense. I never paid attention to any of that before. What else is different? I appreciate things more. When Emma got new shoes last week, it felt like a major purchase that we had to plan for. Before, I would have just bought them without thinking. Is that good or bad? I think it's good. I think I was taking everything for granted before. Not just the money, everything. The security, the comfort, the options. What else? I understand now what it means to worry about providing for your family. The real weight of knowing that if I lose my job, we lose everything. That weight. The crushing responsibility of being the financial foundation for people you love. Dad, you carried that weight for both our families for 12 years, while I was just coasting along, assuming everything would always be taken care of. Yes, I did. How did you handle it? How did you sleep at night knowing that so many people depended on you? Some nights I didn't sleep. Some nights I would sit in my kitchen at 3 a.m., making sure the automatic transfers were set up correctly, making sure there was enough in the accounts to cover everything. Did you ever resent us for not knowing? For not helping carry the load? Sometimes. I'm sorry. Thank you for saying that. Dad, there's something else I need to tell you. What's that? I understand now why you canceled our insurance when you did. You? If you had waited until we were comfortable again, until the crisis was over, we never would have learned this lesson. We would have just gone back to taking everything for granted. And now? Now I know what it costs to take care of a family. I know what it feels like to make hard choices about money. I know the value of every dollar we spend. 6 months later, Sarah called me directly. It was the first time she'd ever called me without needing something. Dad, Bruce, I wanted to thank you. For what? For teaching us something we needed to learn. What's that? That we're stronger than we thought. That we can take care of our own family without depending on anyone else's money. How does that feel? Empowering. Scary, but empowering. Tell me about the empowering part. I love my work more than ever because I know my skills and effort directly affect my family's security. When I perform a successful surgery, it's not just about the patient anymore. It's about Emma's shoes and Thomas's diapers and our mortgage payment. And that feels good? It feels real. Before, work was just something I did. Now it's how I take care of the people I love. Sarah, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think you'll ever want to go back to the way things were before? When someone else was handling your financial security? No, never. This is harder, but it's honest. We know exactly where we stand and what we're capable of. What about your relationship with your parents? It's better, actually. They respect us more now. My dad has stopped giving us financial advice because he can see we're handling our own responsibilities. And your relationship with Michael? Stronger. We're a team now in a way we never were before. We make decisions together because we have to. We both know exactly what our choices cost. 8 months after Thomas's birth, they made their final hospital payment. Michael called to tell me, and I could hear the pride in his voice. Dad, we just made the last payment. Congratulations. It feels incredible to know that we earned every dollar of it ourselves. I'm proud of you. Dad, there's something else I want to say. I'm listening. I want Thomas to know his grandfather, not because of what you might give him financially, but because of who you are. Who am I, Michael? You're the man who built something from nothing and then used it to take care of everyone around him for decades. You're the man who loved his family enough to teach them the hardest lesson they ever needed to learn, even when it hurt you to do it. Thank you. You're the man who showed us that real love sometimes means letting people struggle so they can discover their own strength. Michael, would you like to bring Thomas over this weekend? I'd like to spend some time with my grandson. We'd love that, Dad. Good. And Michael? Yeah? I love you. Not your potential, not what you might achieve. You, the man you've become. I love you too, Dad. For the first time in almost a year, that felt completely true. 3 years later, Michael has been promoted twice more. He's now senior marketing director at a tech startup that's showing real promise. Sarah's surgical practice is thriving. She's become one of the most respected cardiac surgeons in the region, partly because her colleagues can see she works with the intensity of someone who knows her family depends on her success. They live in a house they can actually afford. Not the house they dreamed of, but a house they chose based on their real income. Emma is excelling in public school and has discovered she loves soccer more than violin anyway. Thomas is walking and talking and calls me Grandpa Bruce in a voice that lights up my entire day. They've never asked me to restore the insurance payments or the trust fund. They've never even mentioned them. But every Sunday they come to my house for dinner. Not because they need anything, but because we're family in the truest sense of the word now. Michael calls me several times a week just to talk. About work, about the kids, about decisions they're making as a family. Sarah includes me in conversations about Thomas's daycare and Emma's activities. When Emma had to go to the emergency room for a broken arm 6 months ago, I was the second person they called after 911. Not because they needed my money, because they wanted me there. I still drive the Honda, I still shop at Kohl's. But when I'm with my family now, I'm not invisible money. I'm Grandpa Bruce, who built something important and then taught his family how to build their own important things. The trust fund for the grandchildren is still there, earning interest. 28 months of growth have brought it to $2.6 million. I'll probably restore it when Thomas and Emma graduate high school. Maybe when they start college. But they don't know about it, and that's intentional. I want them to build their own foundations first. I still donate to St. Mary's Hospital anonymously. Dr. Richardson and I have lunch occasionally, and she always asks if I want more recognition for my contributions. I tell her the same thing every time. The work is the reward. But the real reward happened last week. Thomas took his first independent steps. Not from Sarah to Michael, but from Michael to me. He toddled across their living room with his arms outstretched, calling, "Grandpa! Grandpa!" in pure joy. Nobody managed the moment. Nobody suggested it was inappropriate. Nobody excluded anyone from witnessing it. I was just Grandpa Bruce, sitting on the floor with my arms open, crying tears of joy as my grandson walked into my embrace. That moment was worth more than $9 million. But it took withdrawing $9 million to make it possible. If you've stayed with me through this story, thank you. Leave a comment about your own experiences with family boundaries and the difference between helping and enabling. Sometimes the hardest thing you can do for someone you love is let them discover their own strength. Sometimes it's also the most loving thing you can do.